Welcome to Fun and Fundraising, everybody, the podcast where we talk with people behind top nonprofit galas and signature fundraising events to showcase how they positively transform their communities. I'm your host, Rob Giardinelli, and today I have two really fun guests on. So we have Kerri Ann Chambless and Ginny Liverman, and they are the co-chairs of the upcoming Helping Hand Home Crystal Ball. And for those of you not familiar with this event and this organization, this event has been going on for over 80 years, and it has always been one of Austin's most widely attended and most successful fundraisers. So, this is going to be a really fun segment. They're also moving to a new venue for the first time in quite a while this year. So, we're going to talk a little bit about that and how, they've been able to keep generation after generation of families involved with this really great organization. And with that, Kerri Ann, Ginny, welcome. And I'm just so thrilled to be here talking to you both today.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Rob, for
Too.
having us.
Absolutely. So, Kerri Ann, tell me a little bit about what the mission of the Helping Hand Home is.
Well, it is to bring hope and healing to children and families who have experienced very complex trauma. And we do this through a continuum of trauma-informed therapeutic care. Some of our services include a residential treatment center, a foster program, adoption program, and support services like our UT charter school that's on campus.
Wow, they're all really critical things, especially for children who have to go through such horrific experiences. They need lots of resources to heal from something that really is, really traumatic and can negatively impact their life. And I think what you all do is so important with giving children the tools to heal and move forward. And, I always like asking this question. With organizations like this, I'm always fascinated with this question. And Ginny, I'm going to ask this of you first, and then Kerri Ann, I'd love for you to share how this as well. So talk about how you initially got involved with Helping Hand Home.
Oh gosh. I've been involved with Helping Hand for a long time since I was little. My mom was a member of Helping Hand, and I remember on Sunday afternoons, we went to church in that area of the home, and we would drop by and pick up a child. They would come home from dinner with us, or we would go shopping for back to school stuff, which times have changed. We aren't allowed to do that anymore, obviously. But I was exposed to the home growing up, which was just a memorable experience for us, for my whole family. And I was a Deb. Participated in all the things that they had when I was growing up. So I'm very familiar with the event, and I've been a participant for a long time.
Wow, so you've literally done it basically birth on. We're just gonna say
Yes,
so.
pretty much.
So, it's one of those things. What has made you continue to be involved with it? Because lots of people do stuff as kids and then as adults they wind up not doing it anymore. What has, really kind of helped this? How has this organization kind of been really one of the North Stars of your life, it almost sounds like?
Well, yes, I grew up doing Helping Hand, grew up, got married. We had three girls biologically, and then we adopted our son. And so my husband and our priority is really children's causes that, especially after the adoption of him, we realize that children don't choose the situation that they're born into. And so whatever we can do to help improve those situations, we are committed to doing that, and Helping Hand just aligns so great with that goal. And so it was a natural fit to, I was in society, and then, doing this, raising money for Helping Hand is really just a natural fit for our family. We're very committed to children.
Oh, that's really cool. And the fact that, you adopted a child after, you have three girls and a son. I just think that's so cool. And that, it's in a certain way reflective of, the organization. It very much ties to kind of how you all live your life. I just think that's so cool. And Kerri Ann, I'd love to hear, how you initially got involved with the organization.
Rob, as I also grew up in Austin, but didn't go through all the fun events, watched some of my friends do it, and was a bystander to that. But my family engaged when our daughter was invited to participate as a first grade princess. And that was some 21 years ago. And a lot of the women I was around at that time were in leadership at Helping Hand Home, or were in leadership in some of the other organizations I was involved with, from the Junior League or my sororities alumni association. And when I looked at them, there was such great admiration for their leadership, and I saw that they were names on that list for that Helping Hand Home participant invitation, I thought this must be a really, really good thing. It's more than what I saw as a friend of a friend, right? Right. And so, back in the 80s. And so when we looked into it, when John and I looked into it before deciding for Abigail to participate, we were like, wow, this is really impressive. This is a great mission. We share their vision. As a family, all of us, our heart breaks for kids who have been neglected and abused. We hope and we want a better situation for them. And one way to do that is heal them and then, break the cycle of abuse. And these things have generational impact. And so we could get behind the mission, we got behind the vision, and then we looked at the leadership and the legacy of Helping Hand Home and Helping Hand Society. We were like, sold, this is a good thing. And sometimes when you get in, right, when, later I became a society member, and sometimes when you get on the inside, it's like pulling the curtain back from the Wizard of Oz. And you're like, oh, right? And you're like, what am I going to see back here? Well, I'm here to tell you now, after 21 years and being on the inside, there's a reason why we are so successful at accomplishing our mission. And we have data to prove it. We have some of the most long-standing employees serving at the home, and that's a tough gig, right? That I heard for the first time yesterday that some staff members experience what's called secondary trauma. They are pouring into the children, and then when they remove themselves, you know, they're replaying those things and those conversations. That's hard. And yet, if you look at our staff, we have especially some of our upper staff members who've been there for decades. That's a testament in and of itself. And our society members who stay and commit to giving their time, which is a resource you can't, what do you call it? You can't generate, right? That you can make more money, but you can't make more time. So when people give up so much time, you know that we're doing it well.
So well said. And what I really appreciate about your answer, one reason I think so many people like coming to a city like Austin is in certain cities you kind of have to be born into things to be involved. And Austin is so not that city. And and I think it's a testament, Kerri Ann, talking about how Abigail at age 6 was invited to be a first grade princess. And that is just the welcoming nature and spirit. But what I loved about what you said is after that you pulled behind the curtain because yes, you can throw a great event, but is there a great mission and a great cause behind it? And you've got strong leadership and you've got staff that have been there a really long time, and that because all of our resources are finite and we all want to help, but that whatever it is you're going to do, you're probably going to get rewarded in multiple ways, energetically, whatever it may be, in what you're doing. And I just think it's I really liked hearing your story with that, and that you found something that really spoke to you, and you've been doing it for 20 years now.
Yeah.
That's
Thank
really
you, Rob.
that's really cool. I loved hearing that. And we are here to talk about the event and talk about the gala. So first things first is I know that you all are moving to the Fairmont after many years at Palmer. So I love each of you to share your thoughts on this, because this is an interesting thing, and this is a question I get a lot of, we've been somewhere for a while and it's either closing or there's new staff or it got bought by somebody or whatever it is and they have to move. So Ginny, what advice would you give to an organization that needs to move their annual event to a new venue?
Well, it's good. It's a new set of challenges. We kind of were able to start from scratch, and we went back to our event and what are our priorities? What are things we really want to make sure we do well, and how do we bring those with us? There's a lot of things that happen, and some of them are priorities and some of them aren't. So really at the beginning we kind of sussed that out just to check ourselves and check those around us and say, these are the things we're really prioritizing in the move. What do you think about this? Just to make sure we were kind of on the right track and had our priorities first, and then all the other things will come.
I'm glad you mentioned that because, especially for an organization like yours, that's, this event's been going on for 80. This is, I think the upcoming one's the 82nd one, if I'm not mistaken. It's been going on for a while. So, moving, while it can be, like you said, it can be challenging. There's also kind of something fresh about it because you get to kind of innovate, and when the event's going into its ninth decade, that's really an important thing to keep, all the new energy coming in. So I'm really glad you brought that piece up. And Kerri Ann, I'd love to hear your thoughts on that as well.
Yeah, oh yeah, I'm so glad that Jenny led out with priorities because it's kind of like a mission. They're going to guide a lot of your decision making. She also touched on, leaning into other people, and we were really thoughtful about our committee and building a committee, and we were looking for people who have different experiences. Those who are brand new to something, right, can bring new ideas, but have some gala and event planning experience. We also, looked at our society members and we're like, gosh, we need people who are available, right? We need people who are really thoughtful makers. We've engaged so many people in the conversation of what is going to work and what isn't going to work. Once we've got our priorities, then we've got the details to work out. And a new venue also brings new challenges. And so having a perspective of every single challenge is an opportunity to do something differently and maybe a nice little detail that we could add on. We're certainly looking at just thoughtful, creative problem solvers too.
That's a good way, being thoughtful and creative, and that's the hallmark of any successful event because things do happen and things do come up. And I kind of want to talk about, and you both kind of touched upon these, Kerri, and I'm going to direct this next question to you though, and talk about, because there are, there within an event, there's always going to be subcommittees, especially an organization that's raising $2 million like your organization is. So talk a little bit about the importance of subcommittees in creating a successful fundraising event.
Yeah, huge. I mean, this event is giant. We're likely to have 1,400 people at the brunch and fashion show, and then another 1,700, 1,900 at the gala. There are a lot of moving parts, and your subcommittees have to have ownership of what they're doing. And in order to have ownership of it, you have to have really great communication skills, right? You need to know your plan, you need to be able to execute that. And then, communication though is two ways. As much as I might think I'm communicating a message really clearly, it's got to be received. And so following up, clarifying, being willing to just wrestle with a lot of like, is this what you mean? Is this what we're thinking? That kind of deal. And just having that personal investment, right? Like if everybody's got, something that they're going to own, then they'll invest. If we have buy-in, we're in a much better position. So I would say that respect, right? Our society is big, I guess. I actually don't know in comparison to other things, but it's big in talent. We, and we respect the fact that we have a pool that is unlike other organizations, perhaps, and we're thankful.
That was so well said. But I really appreciated, when you have big subcommittees and you've got close to 2,000 people and you've got multiple events going on, you have to delegate. There is no way, there is no way a chair can do it all, and it's, it takes a village. And I think, you perfectly, illustrated that. And then, Ginny, I want to direct the next question to you. And it's somewhat similar, but somewhat different to the question I just asked Kerri Ann. And that is, you all as chairs, and Kerri Ann had talked about vision a little bit. What are the keys to establishing a strong relationship with the organization? So with you all, with the folks at Helping Hand Home that you're helping to raise the funds for, as well as the various boards, because, and I think you've both touched upon that, there's several different types of boards with the organization. How do you establish strong relationships with all those different types of groups within the organization to help you and Kerri Ann execute the vision of the event that you're set out to do?
Oh gosh, our leadership has been super supportive and helpful. And they always will answer. They'll always take our call, which has been so great. And they have some years of gala experience and years of leadership experience. So that has been super helpful for sure on the society side. And then our committee, I think just communicating what Kerri Ann said, our priorities and sharing the vision. And sometimes our vision takes a little left turn and we're like, where are we on this? Trying to sort it out. But they've been super supportive and understanding, as we, engage them to work through this, like this is how it has been done. We think this isn't possible. Help us think of solutions, for your specific committee or your specific group. Like, how can we work through this? And so I think just having really open communication has helped a lot, and support from the staff at the home. They're super helpful to us. And then society leadership as well has been very key, that they're so responsive and willing to talk us through and answer questions and take our calls.
That's fantastic. And, like we said, it takes, it takes a village. And you've been doing this for over 80 years with all different kinds of villages. And, what I always like to say is great event chairs always leave a stamp on the event. And I always like to say and you look back and it's almost like you're looking at your passport and look at all the great things that we have done over the years. So, Kerri Ann, I want to start with you. And I'm really interested in this because you both have long histories with the organization. But how do you add your stamp onto a great event that raises a lot of money while at the same time respecting the history of the event?
Oh, that is such a great question because the move, right? For us, it's a little easier than probably what has been done for decades at Palmer. So the move to the Fairmont is going to just give its own stamp, right? We're going from some 70,000 square feet in Palmer Auditorium to a hotel, their largest ballroom being 31,000 square feet and a secondary ballroom at 26,000. And using those two spaces will lend itself to a little bit of difference. But we maintain kind of the legacy and the tradition of the event by, going back to what are our priorities? And to be specific about that, one of them was to present the same groups at each event, at the brunch and at the gala in the evening, and stick with that plan. And it's just going to look differently because the space is different. So I would say also, we do have the luxury of choosing our backdrops and our set design and things like that, and that'll always carry a certain vibe. And it starts with our invitation process.
Oh, fantastic. Talk about that invitation process, if you don't mind, a little bit, and kind of how that works.
Well, it begins actually kind of early where we design a logo for the event. And that logo then is created, and we have an amazing society member, Lindsay Sarton, who is a graphic artist. And she's do you remember visiting with Lindsay? Yeah, she's
I
amazing,
do.
right? Every time you mention her name, you're like, oh, she's so enjoyable to work with. And I have to say yes, exclamation point. So anyway, we just started the conversation with her, sent a link to our Pinterest board and said, we like this look and feel. Help us create a crest that we can put our H's in. And then maybe we need a banner so just a little guidance there. And then she ran with it, sent us several options. Gosh, that seems like so long ago. And then the process is really, which do you like better? Which do you like? And you just go through one at a time comparing two. I remember learning this from Susan Howerman back in 2004 or 5 when I had to choose Abigail's first grade princess picture. And she would hold up two images and say, which do you like better? You keep one and then you put up a second image. Which do you like better? And it's just a process. You can be so overwhelmed by the options that you have to learn how to eliminate the ones you don't like or choose the one you like better. It doesn't have to be the best first round, just better.
I love that. That needs to be a hashtag. It doesn't have to be the best in the first round, just better, because it's a process. Creating anything is a
Yes.
process, and very, very, very rarely, like one in a billion chance, is it going to be perfect is it going to be exactly what you want on the first try? There's always going to be tweaks and always going to be edits. And I'm really glad that that you talked about that, because really, a logo is almost the event stamp. So it addressed it brought it right back to putting your own, your own stamp on the event. And Ginny, I'd like to know, because you have been going to this since you were a child, so you've been going to this for many years. What is the secret to creating a devoted following that gets people coming year after year, that gets the next generation involved? And that's what I always love about presentation balls is that there is buy-in from multiple generations. And in a city like Austin, it's great because there are other folks like Kerri Ann's family that get picked up along the way, and it allows new energy to still come in.
Yes, I think, well, in our case, we're so lucky and to be involved with the home because it sells itself. I mean, anyone we talk to the home about, once we explain what it does and what it is, some people, even longtime Austin people haven't heard of it, so people want to join and want to be involved. So I feel like the home and its mission definitely keeps people wanting to come back. And then our event has, different age of kids. And so it's different age families. We have first graders and they're in their 30s and they're so cute and young and they come to the brunch. And then, we have the moms of Debs who their daughters are freshmen in college, so that brings a different age group. So I do feel like just having so many participants in different ages brings different age groups around. And then we do have, Kerri and I were just talking, we do have a 4th generation participant this year. So families that have just come and supported the home over the years. And that is really special. And we, 3rd generation, we have several as well, just families that keep coming back and keep supporting with their kids, with their grandkids. It really is so fun to work with these families and so fun to see all the families show up at the events too, the grandmothers and who were Debs before. And so that's been really fun just to look at our list and, notice all those people that have been around for so long.
Oh, that's fantastic. And that everything you said is absolutely spot on and true. And the fact that there's 4 generations now, I mean, that's a really, really cool thing that, very few organizations can do. And Kerri Ann, I want to ask you this same question, but with a slightly different spin, just because, you've been involved, for, like you said, for over 20 years. What advice would you give to someone who is invited to an event for the first time? And you may not necessarily be overly familiar with the organization, but what's a reason that they should say yes? And if you believe in it, what's like the next thing they should do if you want to get involved?
Oh, what a great question, Rob, because we're always looking to expand our network, right? So I appreciate the opportunity to speak on this. I would say if somebody invites you to a Deb ball, why would you say no?
Well,
That would be my first question. I mean, that would be my first question, right? And then if they ask you to the Helping Hand Homes crystal ball, if time is a great resource, right? I would probably Google it. I'd probably look, what is the Helping Hand Home all about? We have a great website. Says it shares our mission, our vision, so that you really right off the bat learn that this Deb ball is just a little different than a lot of other Deb balls in the city of Austin. We our presentation supports is a direct support to Helping Hand Home. And if you learn about Helping Hand Home, it's hard to say no.
That's a great answer. If you learn about the organization, it's hard to say no. But I appreciate you saying, do your research. If you're vibing with the organization, do your homework, because like you said earlier in the conversation, you do have to peel behind the curtain because, a gala is probably going to be their best foot or one of their best feet forward. So you kind of need to see, what's behind that to see if it's got legs. And if it's been around for 80 years, there's clearly legs and teeth behind what it is that the organization is doing. I'd love for you each, because you had talked, Ginny, you had mentioned, having multiple generations be at the event. Talk a little bit about, you with your own daughters and you perhaps with your parents and or your grandparents, and how, events like this helped really kind of strengthen, the bond within your family and, create memories that, you carry years later.
Oh, it is fun to go back through the pictures. And my cousins participated also, so to see the family coming together for an event like this. Everyone kind of knows it's the first weekend of March, but newsflash, we're February 28th this year. So that has been a little adjustment. So we'd love to get that out there. But just our family participating, and my aunts and uncles, will come and support when my girls were dads. And, it's just really, it's been a special thing in our family to have so many cousins and everyone participating, and then my brother's kids participate. It is really neat. And he's going to come this year, even though he doesn't have a participant, because he's like, I want to come and see and support you. So that's just been really fun for our family.
Oh, that's really good. I'm glad he's coming to support you. I was going to
Yes.
say, I was going to say he better be there to support you. So,
Totally.
so Kerri Ann, talk about I want to go back to kind of the space and logistics of what you were talking about with the separate large ballrooms with the sizes. What advice would you give to someone who's doing an event that's a larger size? And I would say really events above 1,000 people, it's a whole different thing to navigate than manage than events of, under 1,000 people, and there's categories within that. But talk a little bit about the advice you would give to someone needing to manage an event that has a really large number of people to attend.
That's a great question because, it goes again to who are your resources, right? People are a great resource. So, our Fairmont liaison, she knows the Fairmont the best. So we're leaning into her. What do you have that we can use? What have you seen that works? Any advice on this stage? We have actual other Deb balls in the city of Austin have happened at the Fairmont. So some of our society members have been a part of those events, and we lean into them. What have been your experiences, right? Do you like this layout or this layout? So it's a lot of identifying the people in society or in your community who have experience and knowledge about the space. And I guess a big takeaway there is there are professionals, ask them, and then there are attendees, ask them, right? And then beyond that, I would just say, we're fortunate to have a couple of probably dozens of event planners in the society. And at any given time, we can pick the phone up and call and say, hey, what roadblock might this lead to? Or, it's all about anticipating the pitfall and not experiencing it. And in order to anticipate the pitfall, you just engage in a lot of conversations.
I
So
love.
we're trying it for the first time, right, at the Fairmont. Such a funny thing. Jenny and I served as the Helping Hand Girl chairs last year and the service project coordinators for the ninth grade participants. And in our participant chair role, we were so blessed with all of these lovely text messages after our participant, from our participant families after the event. That was so smooth. How do you manage, this many participants so seamlessly or, without a hiccup? And those messages were wonderfully encouraging, and then they transferred to motivating. And our motivation now is for our presentation, since that's a priority, right? That's, a major of if we're going to major on the majors, that's a major. So now we're like, okay, how do we take 40 years of experience at the Palmer and translate that to the same seamless event at Fairmont? And I would say it really does take leaning into the professionals and asking everyone, what is the pitfall of that possibility? What is, what, and then we choose, right? Like, how can we navigate that? How can we minimize the con, or how can we eliminate the problem?
You know,
Or pivot. There's a lot of pivoting. You can't have an event in a 31,000 square foot ballroom that's typically in a 70,000 square foot ballroom, and our mindset has to shift from filling a cavern to maximizing space.
those are all really good thoughts, but there's one thing that you said in your answer, and I hope everyone takes it away with them before they did their research. They know that there were other organizations that did presentation balls at that venue. So they knew that there would be a level of trust and credibility with that. And they went there. And yes, your ball is the largest one in Austin, has the most number of attendees, has for many years. But you did the homework and you did the research, and that is so critical. And you can see why people keep coming back. And you got 4 generations involved in one event. And Jenny, I want to turn this question to you. What can guests expect to experience at this year's Crystal Ball? Like, how will it be different walking into the Fairmont versus walking into the Palmer?
Well, let's start at the beginning. There's valet parking at the Fairmont. And the lobby smells really good. It's gorgeous. So that's really fun. We really we want our guests to be familiar, to experience something familiar. Like, even though it's in a new place, we have been working, we're still working hard to keep the presentation, to keep it feeling like something because people do know it and expect something familiar. So we want that. But we do have some changes. Kerri Ann mentioned the separate ballrooms. Our presentation will be on the 5th floor. You'll ride an escalator. There's a pretty lobby there. But then our band and the desserts and everything will be on a separate floor. And so that is one thing we are thinking about every day, probably. How are we going to do this? How are we moving these people? How are we moving the participants? But we will have a separate space. And so if you want to do the band and dance and all that, that will be on a different floor. So that is a change that we are talking about. We're moving our participants from floor to floor, how that's going to look. The escalator, is it viable? Can we have both escalators going up, at the beginning? And, just all the things that we're working through with Fairmont. But we want our guests to feel familiar, the presentation to feel familiar, but also it will be a little different just with the layout. So we're excited about having, some different opportunities at the Fairmont that we haven't had before. So we're looking at everything as an exciting opportunity.
Well, it is, and it's almost like I think Kerri Ann was the one who said it earlier. It's like peeling behind the curtain, and that's basically when the band and the desserts are on a different floor. I mean, you're kind of peeling behind, like, what's next? This was really cool. We experienced something that for a lot of guests, probably the first time in their life ever going to it, has experienced a new venue, and it's like, ooh, what's going to be next? But yeah, I mean, the Fairmont's a beautiful space, and people will feel that from the second that they walk in. And Kerri Ann, what are you looking forward to about this year's gala?
I have to say
Gosh.
this first and foremost, and I bet Jenny knows what I'm going to say. I am so excited that my 4 hour stiletto heels will really be 4 hour stiletto heels and not half an hour. I tell you what, carpeted floors are so much kinder to your toes and your knees.
That is the best sartorial advice I think anyone's ever given in this program. So, carpet is a much more forgiving thing. And yes, I mean, and I feel it in tuxedo shoes when I've gone to that in the past. After a while, it can get to you. So, being in a carpeted space, that'll be, and especially with you as a chair, because, you're not seated
And I
much,
know it.
if
I
at
know it.
all.
And I have to say, I'm glad Jenny brought up the February 28th date because I'm also looking forward to that. That just seems to carry a certain kind of fashion, right? And it's not like, wait, are we spring? Are we winter? It just feels more like, okay, this is good late winter vibes here. And so I have a little bit more clarity about the attire. Just saying. I know. I know.
Well, it's the stars aligning, because it's the last weekend of February slash first weekend of March. So, I mean, every box was checked. I mean, February 28th is like almost the perfect day to kind of do the move. And I know
Yeah.
we're coming up on time today, but I always like to end with this question. Kerri Ann, I'd like you to go first, and then Ginny, I'd like you to have the last word. And that is, what piece of advice would you give to someone looking to chair their first gala?
The first gala.
Their first
Uh,
gala, yeah.
mentorship. You need a great mentor. You need a great community around you. You need people to bounce ideas off of. And you need to be open to suggestions, right? It's a big responsibility. And for it to be all on one shoulder is a little much. So I would just say, just present yourself as curious, humble, and persistent.
Curious, humble, persistent. I love that. And the fact a mentor, someone who's done it before, that is so important, and take their advice and take their direction. Very,
Yep.
very good advice. And Ginny, what about you?
Well, I would say get a co-chair that you like spending a lot of time with. That's
You
important.
know?
Check mark on this one.
Yes. And then just having the people around you. Our committee is amazing. I was on the phone last night at any hour. They will answer. They will talk to us. My sweet sister-in-law is on our committee, and she about so many things off her. We text all the time. Just having the people around you that will support you, but will also say, "Oh gosh, like, have you thought about this? I don't think that's a great idea." So just having those relationships and the committee members that are supportive, but are also super helpful and thinking through things and telling you when maybe you're not on the right track and you need to go back to the drawing board. That's helpful also.
Perfect answer. And I love the undercurrent of that, which is you don't do it alone. You do it with others together to create
Yeah.
something really big and really good. Well, I'm so excited for your move. I know it's going to be I know it's going to turn out really well, and it's going to be a great energy this year. So Kerri Ann, Ginny, thank you so much for joining us. I had a blast chatting with you both today.
Thank you,
Thank
Rob. We appreciate
you.
the opportunity.
Absolutely. And the 82nd annual Crystal Ball benefiting Helping Hand Home will be held on February 28th, 2026 at the Fairmont in Austin, Texas. For more information, please visit helpinghandhome.org. And that will do it for this episode of Fun and Fundraising. I'm your host, Rob Giardinelli, reminding you to keep it fun, keep it interesting, and your guests will have a great time. Have a great day, everyone, and take care.